study guide has 4 steps that you can use in order to, excuse me, in order to do a rotation. The only change is here. Instead of using a ruler to measure the distance of something, we're going to use the compass to measure out the distance. Okay? Let's do number 2 together. Number 2, our first step is we need to draw segments from every vertex to the center of rotation. In this case, that point K, which seems completely unrelated to the figure, will be our center of rotation. So take your protractor. I'm using a really tiny protractor today so that everything stays on frame. Okay, I'm going to start with this vertex, and I'm going to go to my center of rotation. Doesn't matter which vertex you start drawing from. Just get all of them to the center of rotation. There they are. All of my vertices drawn to the center of rotation. The next step then says that I need to draw an angle. Here the angle is given to me 45 degrees, and unless you're told otherwise, we're always going to go counterclockwise. That's that way. If you're like holding your wrist out as if you had a watch and you're reading the time, you've got your arm in front of your face, and it was one of those old-fashioned clocks that still had the hands and the numbers, normally the hands go this way, towards you. Yeah? Counterclockwise, it goes away from you. Okay? So if you're having trouble, I always have trouble forgetting which way is which. So I'll do this. I'll bring my hand up. I put my finger on my wrist, and I go, okay, counterclockwise goes away from me. So that's the direction that I want to spin it in. Okay? Using your protractor, set the center of rotation at your vertex finder. Now mine doesn't have a little hole, so I'm going to have to use that little guideline that it gives me. Line up the segment that you drew to a vertex. It doesn't matter which vertex you start at, so just pick one. And then using your protractor, you're going to mark out 45 degrees going this direction. So for me, 45 degrees ends up about here. So I'm just going to put a little mark. That's 45 degrees. Now I'm going to connect that mark I made back to my center of rotation. So this point G, when it rotates, it's going to rotate that way, and it's going to stop somewhere along that line, but I don't know where. Time to use our compass. We're okay so far? Okay. Take your compass, set the needle on the center of rotation, place your pencil on the point that you were rotating. And then I'm going to use the spin the paper hack. Rotate your paper until your compass pencil intersects and crosses over that line that you drew at the very beginning of this construction right there. Stop. I passed the line. The line that G was supposed to be on, I've passed it. Wherever the arc you just drew and the line that G was going to end up on, wherever those two things intersect, that's where G ends up rotating to. That is the location of G prime. So what you did was you created a starting line. You use that starting line to mark off the measure, how far you're going to go in degrees. Then you took your compass and you drew out the arc so that you could literally feel you started here and you drug this point until it crossed your mark of how far you needed to go. Repeat for every vertex. Okay, so here I'm going to repeat it for point F. I'm lining up my center of rotation with my vertex finder, lining up the segment with my 0 line, which for me is the edge of my protractor. I'm going to find 45 degrees, mark it. Once 45 degrees is marked, I'm going to connect it back to my center of rotation. Now that it's connected to my center of rotation, I'm going to grab my compass,
It's alright, dude.
set my compass needle on my center of rotation, the pencil on the vertex I am rotating, and then I'm going to use my spin the paper hack, and I'm going to drag that point until it crosses that most recent degree mark line that I had made. And when I'm done, this is where F will end up rotating to. Time to repeat for H. Line up my vertex, my center of rotation. Line up the segment from center of rotation to point I'm translating, or excuse me, rotating. Finding 45 degrees. Marking off 45 degrees. Connecting that back to my center of rotation. Oops, I went past it. Taking my compass, needle on center of rotation, pencil on vertex I am rotating, and spin the paper hack until it crosses that 45 degree line that I just drew. And there is where H ends up. All that's left now is to connect the vertices. Did the movement make sense of what we did? Yeah? Yep. Yep, yep. Nadia? Yep, 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 yep.
No.
Ivan, yeah.
Besides, you can get to it.
How to get the H over here? So the H is right here. Because this is the line that's 45 degrees from this line.
But why, isn't it supposed to be next to the 8?
What do you
Oh,
mean?
wait, never mind, never mind.
Oh, you saw?
I forgot a step.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Wanted to make sure that we understood what the question was. And then we're just connecting our vertices. Because remember, we're rotating the entire figure, not just the vertices. And that's what the final rotation figure looks like.